Hi and welcome. How are you, everybody? Welcome to our live stream today. My name's Chad, and we're here to talk about the business of games from idea to indie studio. So I'm here with Aiden and Irini, and basically we're here representing AIE. I had a great question. We've had a great question. I'll try and keep on top of the questions. We had a great question in the chat already. Hi. I think we've got a technical problem. I'm hearing myself here, Matt. Oh, I know what's wrong. Okay, we're there. I'm so sorry about that. You know, I was like being really egotistical and I had the live stream going there and there was a delay, so I was hearing myself. Okay. Good question in the chat. Thank you. What is an AIE? Someone said AIE is the Academy of Interactive Entertainment. So we're specialist educators in games, film, animation, art, VFX. So basically learning how to make games. And I am the games producer trainer for AIE. So I run what's called the Graduate Diploma of Management Learning. It's an optional third year, which is all about games business. So when people learn how to make games in their first 2 years, they then come along and if they choose to do games business with me in our class. And I'm very, very happy to introduce Aiden and Irini here. Aiden was my student last year and is now doing incubator with AIE, and Irini is our current student from the Melbourne campus, and Aiden's here in Adelaide. So we're going to start with some introductions. You know me a little bit now. I think we might start with Irini. Tell us a bit about yourself, Irini.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Irini and I graduated with a Bachelor of Animation last year. This year I'm doing the GDML course and I'm the creative director, producer, artist, social media manager of Foodimina. And I'm founding a startup indie studio known as Lumelli Studios with my co-founder and programmer, John, who is in the chat right now, I believe. So we're going to be previewing new gameplay of our game at PAX this year. That's in October. We're also going to have a merch collection here. So we've got keychains, stickers, tote bags, a bunch of new stuff. And this update we have been doing a devlog series for as well on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. We've just been sharing our devlog journey and the development changes that we've been working on for the last few months, which we'll have at PAX. And you can see our series intro. Yeah. That's your cue.
and food-themed RPG, and this is my team. Hi guys, we're Lumelli Studios, emerging game developers creating our first game. Taking inspiration from games like Undertale, Pokemon, Paper Mario, and shows like Steven Universe and The Owl House, our game is a story-rich RPG where you play as two food girls and risk your lives to save the galaxy from a mold invasion, but with a twist. We've been developing for about a year, have a free playable demo, and now we want to share our game dev journey with you while we expand our game. So if you're interested in fantasy lore-filled worlds, pixel graphics, and turn-based combat, stay tuned.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thanks, Irini. And now let's hear from Aiden.
Yeah, g'day guys. How are we all? Yeah, my name's Aiden. I run a studio called Catalyst Games. We're an indie studio. Yep, Chad's got the mug there. Yeah, we're working on a game called Dungeons and Dining Tables. It's a cute little game about an axolotl that delves dungeons to collect rare pieces of furniture. We also do some work for hire stuff on the side, and we run some workshops for kids to teach them about game development and pathways and careers into the industry. So yeah, that's sort of what we do here. We're a bit of a cozy office. We've got a team of about 10. And yeah, maybe we'll show you one of our little TikToks as well, if Matt's got it up there and ready to go.
Aiden here. I run a small indie game studio called Catalyst Games, and we're working on our first major game title, Dungeons and Dining Tables. This week we did our first sprint meeting for the year. Almost our whole team was there and it was so much fun. A sprint meeting is where you organise all the tasks you need to get done before the next major deadline and plan out the direction for the next 2 weeks, but we'll talk about that at a later point. We also presented our game at the AIE Games Business Graduate Showcase. So many people came out to support us and the other Games Business students. A massive thank you to everyone who came along to do that. Also this week, I learned how to work hard and play hard by playing this awesome board game. I lost, but it was still a lot of fun though. Lastly, we were invited to show off our game as part of the main showcase for Sage this year. The South Australian Games Expo is a celebration of all things video games, and each year they host a bunch of game studios to show off what they're working on. If you're based in Adelaide or will be in Adelaide on February 16th and 17th, Friday, Saturday, come along and say hello. Maybe bring an axolotl or a plushie or something for a selfie. I'll see you there. Bye for now.
Okay, so we have 2 TikTok introductions. Thank you, folks. Fantastic stuff. So the purpose of today is, like, I've brought you all here today for 2 reasons. One of them is to talk about one of my favorite topics generally, which is games business. And this is like the business of making and selling games. And one of my favorite authors in a book called Game Dev said, basically, if you make a game and you want to sell it and you want to make money off it, you want people to buy your game, you are in business. That's just how it is. That's just the reality. Otherwise, someone else is in business and employing you. They're kind of the options there. So I love talking about games business, but I'm also here to talk a little bit about the games business program at AIE, where people learn how to run a games business and get some training, learn how to write some documents, and learn how to face some of the challenges and risks in running a business before going off and making their own indie game studio and selling the game themselves. So there might be some people in the chat who are from AIE, are in first year or second year and going, what's this program about? And hopefully today will help answer some of those questions as well. So what I'd like to do is start off by talking about some of the challenges of running a games business. For me, like, games business is extremely challenging. It's such a hard business. It's really, really tricky and challenging to get into. But I'd like to hear from Irini and Aiden about the kinds of challenges they have experienced in running their studio and how they've overcome or faced some of those challenges. We might start with Irini. What kind of things have you faced in your studio and in games business, Irini?
Yeah, so I think to make this make sense, I should give a little bit of context. Last year, immediately upon graduating my bachelor, I joined the IGS Smart program. It's like a 6-month mentorship program that was hosted by Kerry Hutton. And that was like a good transitioning experience between being a graduate and an industry figure. And through that, I got support to do a funding application. I submitted a grant application for the Screeners Emerging Grant, I believe it's called. And we were meant to hear results for the success of that application around the time of the census date of this course. And Upon enrolling in this course, we had completely forgotten that there is a little bit of difficulty with studying full-time as well as conducting like a development as part of a grant application. So we faced one of the first big challenges of our studio, which is, do we withdraw our application and go with the course, or do we wait and see if we did get the grant and withdraw out of the course? Did I already say that? I think I did.
Yeah, no, they were the two options:
Course.
do the course or do the grant, because you couldn't do them together,
And
right?
we
So
will withdraw from the course or withdraw from the grant. Yeah, and those were our two options, which were very, very polarizing. The first project that we did as part of the GDML course, which I think you do around during the census date before and after, was the change management strategy. And if I can pull up the strategic measures just to share, these were some of the things that we had to do as part of the project, which was outlining measures and goals to do as part of our studio to measure if we are having any growth and improvement and advancement in the business. And it was quite coincidental timing that we had to do a project around managing change in our careers and being open to change and accepting change and how that comes along with risks as well, while we were facing this challenge of choosing a grant or choosing the course. After we did our strategic measures, we basically laid everything out front, which was what did we want to achieve in the year? And we realized that we could achieve everything we wanted to do with the grant through the course, and do even more, which was thanks to the help and the structure of the GDML course. It just made everything a lot clearer for us. So we went with the decision of withdrawing our application and continuing with the GDML course. And I would say it was the right decision for the business.
that's the correct answer. Thank you, Irini. I did,
Yeah.
as a lead up to this live stream, just to be completely fair, I approached Irini and I said, can you tell me, be completely honest. Tell me, do you regret your decision to do the course instead of doing the grant? Was it worth doing? And she said, I think pretty honestly and pretty candidly, that yes, it was definitely worth doing the course. So that's nice little bit
You were
of
nervous asking that.
yeah,
The answer. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was definitely the right decision for us. I'm confident that we would have gotten the grant. I had so much support backing up that application. We had so many supporting materials. It's an emerging grant. It's for emerging developers. But at the end of the day, 30K will only get you so far. And we will talk more about finances in this live stream. So the
Mm.
the course was definitely going to get us further with the goals that we had in mind, and it has so far.
So the interesting thing with what you see up on the screen here is the strategic measures is what we do. The first thing in the course is we say to people, where are you now and where do you want to be in the future? So it's kind of an envisioning activity where you say, what do you want your business to be and where are you now? Because most people come from a place where they were students or they were independent, they've never run a business before, or they've never run this business before. So this structured process of outlining strategic measures enables people to say, okay, where do we want to be and what do we need to do to kind of get there? So we might cancel that, Matt, and then ask Aiden, what are some of the kind of challenges you've experienced in your business, Aiden? And is there any work that you did in the games business course that have helped you kind of face those challenges?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, one of our biggest kind of challenges that we've sort of had to go through is hiring contractors. So we're a team of 10 now, and we've been a team of 12, and we've been a team of 8, and we've moved through a bunch of different people. And I think over the last 12 months, we've actually been able to put contracts out to about 30 different people. And in order to be able to do that, you really need to build a pretty strong onboarding structure to help you kind of, at the very least, get people up to scratch and set them up for success. So, Matt, I think you've got a presentation there from our kind of orientation documents, if you want to throw that up as well. So just have a quick little scroll through this. But essentially, we have a bit of a presentation here where we go through kind of the core values of our business model. We talk about some of the stuff with the work for hire that we do and the different products that we have. We talk about the game. There's some memes in there as well, which is pretty funny. Some of the partners that we work with. And really, this kind of document here was something that we put together through the graduate diploma course. and has really helped us to get everybody started, feet on the ground, everybody running, set up for success. They know who we are, they know what it is that we're doing, they know who we're working with, and yeah, it's all just it's a good place to start. And I don't think we would have had anything like this if we didn't go through that course. So yeah, that's definitely been a big challenge for us, especially having so many different people to work with. So yeah, being able to get everybody on board and on the same page as quickly as possible has been really invaluable for sure.
And so, yeah, so what I saw through your graduate diploma year was that development of things like mission and values and this idea. I mean, you had a pretty good idea of what your business was before you came in, right? And you have a business background as well. But I saw you thinking through, like, what's our mission? What are our values? And building up connections and potential contracts and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a bit like Irini, building the capacity towards success for later on. And can you tell us a bit more about what you're doing this year, Aiden?
Oh man, so many things.
Oh, incubator, I mean. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, incubator is definitely a big step for us. So after we finished the graduate diploma, there was an opportunity for us to pitch to AIE our game and our business, and because we had all that documentation that we'd done over the year, we were able to put our best foot forward with an application to say, hey, if you guys give us a little bit of support, I think that we're going to be able to amplify that into something that's really big and really awesome. And it has really kind of springboarded us. It's put us in a space where, we're able to have an office space together. We're able to afford some computers and some tech stuff that we need. We can go to some events and those sorts of things. Pretty similar to the SMART program that Irini was talking about as well. We've got that mentorship and that support. And it kind of has, it's helped us, basically build a lot bigger than what we could have done by ourselves. So, even though, it's a little bit of support, it does go a really, really long way, especially when you're in that startup phase and bootstrapping and trying to figure out how to do everything for cheap and all of that. So yeah, big fan of it. Great program.
And so I think it's working really well for you. The design of the whole thing is that you go through your first 2 years, or Irini did a bachelor's degree at SAE. So you do your diploma and your advanced diploma, or your bachelor's year. In the first one, you learn to become a game developer, and then you learn about business, and the scaffolding gets taken away like that. In your early years, you have quite a structured environment, quite a structured classroom environment, and then the graduate diploma, we try and introduce more of a professional work environment where there's not quite so much structure. There's a bit more figure it out yourself stuff, and a bit more pushing you out of that comfort zone. And then in your incubator, you're one step more independent again. You've got a little bit of money, a bit of support, some mentoring, you're in the space. So in-game plus the collaborative, the co-working space. But again, it's that next step to independence. And so the idea here is the term I think of is the term escape velocity. Can a business or can a studio reach escape velocity and kind of get out of the orbit of like the structure and the support of institutions and AIE and living with your family and being on Centrelink and things like that, which is what you need to start with, and how do you get that gradual journey towards independence is I think
definitely. I completely agree with you. I think the first 2 years are really good for technical expertise, so you get to learn a lot about what you do. Myself, I went through the design stream with AIE, so I was able to spend a couple of years learning how to design games and a little bit of programming, a little bit of art and all this sort of stuff. And that really set me up to build our first prototype. And the prototype part is kind of the easy part when you think about it, because then you've got, okay, now I need to build a pitch deck, and now I need to find a way to employ people, and now I need to go out and speak to publishers, and I need to go and find investment and do some work for hire stuff and build something that's sustainable. So so coming into the graduate diploma with the background of, okay, I've understood the technical skills now, what do I need to do to build a structure that's going to be sustainable and allow me to build something that can potentially reach escape velocity, hopefully. And then, of course, after finishing that, having the opportunity to go into an incubator program where, we are very much completely autonomous. We do whatever it is that we do. We've got some milestones, we've got some mentorship, but essentially, you're out on your own. Good luck, make it happen, So, and I feel like we're in that process of making it happen. So feels good.
And that's one of the things I think that people sometimes say, You don't need to do the graduate diploma because anyone can start a business. And it's true. I started my first business with no training, no learning, and I just bootstrapped myself and all of that. But it was hard. And I think Aiden had the same experience. And I think
Definitely.
it's a little bit like you can also learn game dev without any learning, without studying any course or whatever. But it really, really helps to have that structured environment to help you get on track there. Irini, tell us about your technical background. So sometimes there's a bit of a story that the games business is only for designers, or it's only for studios, or it's only for a particular type of people. Tell us about your technical background. What's your discipline?
My discipline is animation. So you want to know my upbringing, how that led to games?
Yeah. Well, yes, or how your technical work, the animation stuff, has led into running a studio and what that journey's been like.
Right. Well, prior to even enrolling in the Bachelor of Animation course at SAE, me and my co-founder John, we already had in mind that we wanted to work on the game that we're working on now, and we specifically enrolled in the bachelor courses that we did at the same uni because we wanted to work on a major production together, which was cross-disciplinary, and kind of treat the uni course as like a test period to see if we can work together if the project was viable. And I think uni courses are the best places to make mistakes in like a secure environment, which is why a business course like this is like a good de-risk for a studio. And from there, we had really good success for our major production. From there, I did the SMART program, which sparked my passion for business. Thanks, Kerry Hutton. But from there, I realized how much more I needed to know about business. I had all my hard skills. I knew how to create the visuals and everything for our game. I knew how to kind of extrapolate that for marketing and content creation as well. But there was still so much more I needed to know about managing our studio and how to like manage finances and just that extra step from we've got a grant, what do we do now? So this course has really helped us with just laying a good foundation that is kind of a safety net of security, de-risking, and all that.
Oh, cool. So I didn't know that. I'm learning even now. I didn't know that Foodimina has been a passion project for 4 years,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's like kind of a long story how we even like came up with that idea. It started as a year 12 project.
Oh,
It's a really weird thing, a really weird story. But if we have time, I can mention it.
what I would like to do is we've got your trailer, so I'd like Mac to line up the Foodimina trailer a little bit because I love this project. It's
Yes.
it's got so
Thank
much
you.
soul and it's got so much heart and kind of comedy, and it's writing and the art is
Oh,
fantastic.
thank
So let's
you so
watch the
much.
trailer.
Yeah, trailer is a little bit old. We released things once finished.
Oh, oh.
Oh
I
no.
did not put
It's
the time
okay.
here.
Ha. So your game is full of puns. I love it. And I saw a fart joke in there, which
So
is
many
just
food
excellent.
puns.
um,
Yeah,
I,
kids
I
love
think
it.
it's lots of fun. Which I mean, game dev should be fun, and even I'm weird. I find games business fun as well, but maybe that's just me. What we might do is we might go to a question from when we ask people to register. They put in some questions, and what I will do is we got quite a number of questions, so we might not be able to answer them all. But what I will do is I will answer all of them, but it may be in the chat, the YouTube chat afterwards, after the live stream. But I think there was a really good one from Liam about how do you effectively manage the work-life balance? Huge question for any business owner and any game dev. Maybe either of you. Can either of you talk about work-life balance and what that means for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to start if you want to finish this off, Irini. I think one of the big things for work-life balance, especially when you're super passionate about starting something new, it's got good energy, it's got momentum, it's novel. You kind of want to spend all of your time doing it. And the problem with that is that you will burn yourself out eventually. So one of the things that I've done, especially recently as well, is just making very specific, deliberate time for friends and family and some of the stuff that I enjoy. So making like particular dates in my calendar that says I'm going out for lunch. I'm going out to I'm going to a medieval fair this weekend. I'm going to stay at a hotel in the Barossa, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I think that's really important, because if you don't do any of those things, you will just forget. So yeah, definitely for the work-life balance, the biggest thing for me has been like organization and planning around seeing friends, going out for dinner with your family, those sorts of things. That has been the biggest thing to help me build that work-life balance. That being said, I do think you are going to suffer from not having a perfect work-life balance, especially in the early days of starting up a studio, depending on, you know, what your priorities are and what your goals are. I know that when we're getting close to a convention, you know, it's all hands on deck. We got to make sure the build is exactly the way that we want it as much as possible. And I think the people in the team, you know, appreciate that and understand that as well. So, you know, I think it ebbs and flows, but deliberate time for friends and family is definitely a big one for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's this thing about crunch in the industry, which is often really bad, and often students come to the graduate diploma to games business thinking crunch is really bad. We're never going to do it. But I think the research, and I think what we know about crunch, is that it's not so bad if it's temporary, but when it becomes a cultural thing and it becomes expected and it's forced on people, then it's a bit more problematic. What about you, Irini? What do you do for work-life balance?
Oh boy, it's really hard right now. So I work-wise, I have to distribute myself between doing the GML course, doing the producing and the implementation and development of the game that we're working on to have our PAX preview for. And I also do the full-time like social media management of all our platforms, which we have the devlog series on. So there's like kind of 3 different jobs that I have to distribute myself across. And burnout is a really big concern for us. So rather than I really should adopt some of the practices that Aiden has, but
it's taken a while, trust me. Yeah.
Oh, it'll always be like that. We, I suppose, have certain values like in our studio to ensure that working on the project is a positive and motivating environment that avoids certain things like crunch and burnout. And we really try to make being able to work on these things as accommodating as possible, just so people don't burn themselves out or feel like very exhausted from the project and really suffer from that physically and mentally. So one of the projects that we had in the GDML course that actually helped us kind of push this more forward as a priority for the studio, and if Matt can bring it up, it's the health and wellbeing document. We had to create a health and wellbeing document, pretty much, where we got to outline certain clauses, boundaries, and expectations for facilitating a healthy environment for work, certain things that we expected from the team, like flexibility and adaptability with how we create tasks and office agendas. And we also had a separate section where we outlined the specific needs of our individual team members. We're a really small team, just a team of 3 at the moment, and because we are a small team, we do have the benefits of being able to accommodate everyone's individual circumstances and have solutions for that. So we have been able to be incredibly productive, and honestly, we've been able to do more implementation and game dev than we had outlined in the grant timeline, which is really weird. I don't know how we've gotten this far. But yeah, we've been extremely productive while still doing our best to make sure everyone's comfortable with the work situations that we have. I mean, we don't have a grant. We're still not technically making money. So trying to create certain exercises like being able to stretch every hour within our office agendas, having refreshments around for people like snacks, healthy snacks, water and whatnot. We tend to forget to drink water, so I've even made stickers that remind us. Healthcare stickers, basically.
On brand.
Has to touch grass as well.
Can I get some of those stickers? They look great.
Absolutely. I give them out for free a lot of the time because health is a very important thing that we should be talking a lot more about in game dev and reminding our fellow basement dwelling game devs to touch grass and drink water. But yeah, this health and well-being document was something that really motivated the team to prioritize ourselves a bit more and take care of ourselves because that is in turn taking care of the business.
Yeah, this is a great one because some of the assignments in games business are quite technical, and people can have a really technical approach to them. And there certainly have been people I've seen who've gone, "Oh, health and well-being policy. Okay, here we go. What is it? Oh, get me a template from SA Health or something like that. And here are the headings, and we'll just type out some whatever." And people just like kind of phone it in. And the thing is, it's kind of like I have to go, well, you wrote that. It's yeah, okay, that's competent. You've got that. But then sometimes what people do, like Irini has, actually go, oh, this actually could be a really valuable thing, and actually really genuinely engage with it, and go, yeah, we're really going to put some thought into this and really think about how our health and well-being balances with our production and our other priorities, and really try and look after ourselves and kind of take it genuinely. So that was a really interesting thing.
Yeah, it's something really important to me because I have suffered from really bad burnout upon like graduating high school. I went straight into uni, no gap year, nothing, and it was just back-to-back work 24/7. And I was finding massive gaps where I couldn't even pick up like my tablet to draw because I just didn't have the drive for it. So
Right.
burnout is something really important to me that I don't want my team to experience, or getting really unwell from working too much. So we do have systems in place where if someone does get sick or someone does need to take a step back, we have a certain like disciplinary scrum backlogs so we can still work on stuff without needing like active weekly sprints to do new things.
Yep.
And we still keep basically the ball rolling while being able to take breaks.
Yeah, that's great. So part of this is actually goes to is a nice segue to Andre's question, which is what are some effective strategies that ensure you and your team are able to get tasks completed and deadlines met? So Irini's talked a little bit about Scrum and sprints and having like a backlog, a disciplinary backlog, and having flexibility in that planning. What about you, Aiden? How do you manage tasks and work to deadlines and work with all the complications and complexities of the production team?
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a large team, so we're very lucky in the sense that if somebody is unwell or has to take some time off, we have other people that can kind of take over. One of the big things that's helped us, especially with getting to deadlines and making sure that we're within our development milestones, is breaking things down into much smaller tasks. And also assigning them to somebody specific. So if we create a task and it requires some programming and some art, we break those down into smaller tasks. And sometimes the art tasks get broken down into smaller tasks again. And then we have somebody that does our concept, and then somebody that does our 3D turnaround, and then somebody that implements it into engine. And so that one task becomes 3 different jobs that can be handled by the same person or by 3 different people. And that just breaks it down into much easier tasks. One thing that we do as a bit of a new implementation with our production management at the moment is t-shirt sizing. So when we're coming up to sprint planning, we put together a list of all the tasks. And then as a team, we go through and go, okay, is this a small task? Is this a large task? We define what a large task is as, 1 to 2 days, and a small task is 1 to 2 hours. We also have added onto that, we have a coffee task, which is a task that's like, it's going to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But those do stack up and they do turn into a couple of hours worth of coffee tasks. So it's always good to have that as well. So yeah, just effective ways to plan out what the next month is going to look like, or the next couple of weeks. And then making sure that you're effectively resourcing that properly and making sure that people are responsible for different aspects. I suppose the only other thing that we do, which I think is really helpful, is nobody is allowed to complete a task. Everybody puts it into a review, and then somebody else reviews that task to say, yep, this is definitely completed, and moves it on. And that way it's not just about that one person being completely in charge of making sure the thing's in until it falls over. Somebody's peer reviewed it. Everybody's taken a look at it before we say, yep, that's completed. So it just gives us an extra iterative phase so that we can go, okay, does this need improvement? Is this correct? Is there things we haven't considered? And we just kind of work from there. That's been pretty cool. That being said, we don't always hit our deadlines. I think development is one of those things where there's so many different things that could go wrong or go different, and some things take way longer than you'd expect. One of our big things is we're in the process of trying to build for a bunch of different platforms, and with that comes it comes a bunch of different things that we just didn't even expect or think about, like our music that we've got. We're using a program to help us with that, and you need different licenses for different platforms and all of these sorts of things, and those are extra steps that we just didn't realize because we've never done it before. So making sure you've got a good buffer to say, okay, we are going to get it done in the month, but maybe if it takes a week longer, that's not too bad. Just being comfortable with flexibility and changing those deadlines as much as possible to make sure that you're working within a timeline that's reasonable, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, production is one of my favorite things to talk about. So there's that thing about task estimation, and the best human beings are terrible at absolute estimations of task. So it's really, really tricky to say, oh, this is going to take me 16 hours or 21 hours, and you go for relative task estimation. So t-shirt sizing, small, medium, large, extra large is really good. And then the other thing is about inspection and adaptation. So as Irini said previously, you go, well, what's not worked? And so this process of like the review check that Aiden's got in there has emerged from actually looking at how the development's going and going, actually something's not working here. And it's not that one person's to blame because they didn't do that bit of code correctly or something. It's more like there's something in the system that's not working. So how can we approach this systemically and put in place something so that we're all responsible for it, and that spreads that responsibility around a little bit. So
I think it's really important to consider when you're making a game or when you're building a business, any kind of business really. I think there's a good analogy around you're a band. It's not one person's job to be the complete song. It's everybody's job, and everybody has to rehearse. Everybody has to rehearse together sometimes. People have to rehearse at home. And then when you finally go out with this song that you've written and the music that you've made, the idea is that hopefully everybody plays their part right at the end, But if the song goes bad, it's not one person's fault that the song goes bad. It's everybody's fault. The same as like a sports team, right? You're all in it together. The whole thing is a team effort. It's all about collaboration. So I don't think anybody in our team feels specifically responsible for any particular part. I think everybody just wants to see the best version of what we're building. And I think that means that people just take over stuff as we go through, and I'll help with that and you help with this, and we get it all done. So yeah, definitely I think responsibility is important, accountability is important for sure. But give it to somebody so that they can support. But don't give it to them so that they can be wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Exactly. And since we're talking about your project, we might get Matt to line up the trailer for Dungeons and Dining Tables, which is Catalyst Games game. And just congratulations on the Steam page and all your wish lists. Go wish list on Steam.
Thank you. Yes, please go and wish list it on Steam. Ooh.
So yeah, that's Dungeons and Dining Tables. And if you know anything about game dev, your Steam page launch is like a massive thing, right? It's a huge marketing beat. It's the place when you go to market and you say, we are making a game, like back us, like wish list us, like tick the box that mean you'll get some emails occasionally. But the Steam page is huge. It's a really big thing. So congratulations on that. What I might do is I might go to a question that I've had, like a bit of a case study that I've had. I had a student, a first year art student here at AIE, come to me and say, I've been asked for a commission. Someone's offered me a commission. What should I do? Someone's offering me some money. what do I do about that? And it's like, take money. Yes. First rule of business. If someone offers you money, take it if you can. But I think this is a really interesting question, maybe to put to Irini first. What's your kind of experience of this? You're an artist. Have you ever had, fan art or commissions or anything like formal or structured, or like, what are the challenges? What questions have you got, or what approaches do you think about
that?
that? Oh,
Um, hmm. My history with commissions, I come from a very artistic online community background. So growing up, my experience with commissions was the very informal type, which was you get one on DeviantArt, which has its own currency, or it's very informal. It's just other artists paying other artists for art of their own characters or other characters in media. But as you get older, if you do become a freelance artist, or you're kind of just a freelance individual in the creative industries, you're going to get more formal commissions, like I did a few days ago. More of an opportunity or an offer, which was from a mentor figure that basically messaged me saying they were interested in commissioning me, and the commission would involve me drawing characters from other IP in other Australian made games. So there's a lot of question to ask there, which is, I'm drawing other people's IP. It's not necessarily your IP. How is this IP going to be used? What is the use of this commission? I do not know those details yet. I'm still waiting on a brief. And I think that would be my first advice. If it is going to be a formal commission, definitely ask them to provide you with a brief. If it's going to be a big project, an outlined scope or deadline or timeline, a budget that they have, so you can then provide what you can do with that money, or what you can do with a bit more money. What else?
The brief is
General
super
information
important.
of it. Yeah. Brief definitely helps you as the artist supply or understand what they're looking for, if they can provide that necessary information. Also sets you up with knowing like what questions you would want to ask in return. And I think Aiden and you would also have suggestions on other things you should just generally have for a commission if
For
you do
sure.
get offered one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the brief is super, super important, and having that in writing, because, I've heard horror stories of someone who's like, oh, yeah, can you do a thing for me? Oh, what is it? Oh, I don't want to put it in writing because, because someone might steal my ideas. I'll just tell you over the phone. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Here's my thing. Is that good? Yeah, it's good. That's like super, super dangerous, because what you want is a brief in writing that says, here's what I want you to do. And then you go and do the work, and you deliver the work and say, this is what you asked me to do, right? And they say, yes, that is what I asked you to do. Tick, here's your money, job closed, we're all good. You don't want someone coming back to you a year or 2 or 5 years later and saying you didn't do the job properly, and then not have that brief written down. So that's a super important thing. The other important thing is around IP. And I'm not a lawyer, not an IP lawyer, but some people don't know what we mean when we say intellectual property. And that's basically the right to use a piece of art for an economic purpose. And so Irini's question here is, I'm drawing someone else's game figures. That's kind of like their IP. Do I have permission to draw that? And then when I draw that, is that still my IP, or is part of the contract me signing over that IP so that the person who's paying me money can make money from the thing I've created? So in a contract, there should always be some IP assignment so that the person who has bought your artwork has the legal right to actually make money off it. What about you, Aiden? You've done a lot of work for hire and a lot of contract stuff. What do you think is some really important things to keep in mind if someone's offering you money to do some work?
Yeah, I think both of you said it right there, but get in writing. Get it in writing is really, really important. The reason that you get it in writing isn't just to say this person promised that they're going to pay me or anything like that, but it's also to be able to check on success criteria, so that you've got a checklist of, if I do all of these things, we can both agree that this is a satisfactory job. The thing is, especially when you work around creative people, everyone's very passionate. And being passionate means that they go, you know what, I just woke up and I had this fantastic idea and I really wish it was in the commission that I just commissioned. I'm going to call them and I'm going to check and I'm going to see if I can do that. And that happens a lot in creative spaces. So we have some work for hire stuff that we've gotten halfway through a project and said, here, we do a check-in and say, this is what we got so far. And they go, this looks awesome, but I really want it to look like this. And we have to go, okay, well, that's not in the brief. So if it's not in the brief, we have to renegotiate the brief. We have to figure out how we can add it to the brief. It might cost more. It might take more time. And all of those things, but we can only do that if everything is in writing to start with. So making sure that everything is kind of in that space. You've got success criteria, you know your deadlines, so you know when delivery is supposed to happen. You know when you're supposed to get paid as well. So are you getting paid at the end of the project? Are you getting paid a bit at the front of the project? Are there milestone payments during that process? All of those things are really, really important because say, for example, you come through on the work and they don't come through on the money. Well, now do you continue working on it, or do you wait for that milestone to come through, or where are you? So that's definitely a big part of it. If it is something you're going to do regularly, get an ABN. Getting an ABN is a fantastic idea. It's completely free. Don't ever pay for an ABN. You can Google it. Just go to the ASIC site or whichever one it is now, and get your ABN. It does allow you to do a bunch of stuff. Take a look into, what your do some research into what being a freelancer is in your particular industry and field. There are like tax deductions for that sort of thing, and all sorts of stuff that you can research. Talk to an accountant, talk to a lawyer, do those things, especially if you're going to do some bigger contracts. We do a couple of different types of contracts, and especially in our work for hire stuff, especially with our workshop stuff, there's some very specific criteria that we're required to have. Because we work with libraries and different city councils, we need a specific type of insurance. We need working with children's checks. We need police checks. There's a bunch of stuff like that. And if we don't have that stuff all squared away beforehand, then it could cause a lot of people a lot of trouble, especially when we've got a couple of different responsible parties. So again, making sure that that's all in writing is really helpful, and it will help you build a system to go, okay, I know what it is that I'm looking out for when a contract comes through. And being proactive as well. So writing your own proposal, writing your own contract, and sending it through to someone and saying, these are my terms. This is how we do business together. I think that's really, really invaluable if you can get that done.
Yeah, for sure. And there's like a lot there, right? And we don't necessarily cover all of those things in the games business program because we just don't have the capacity to do that. One of the things that we do some really practical things, as well as like manage health and well-being. We do some really practical things. And so one of the things we get students to do is to write an invoice. So I'll get Matt to line up the Catalyst invoice, just an example of one of the assignments that we get people to do. And now, like when people come into business, they often don't know what an invoice is. But an invoice is a document that says, please give me money. I'm going to do this thing for you. Please give me money. And you can see there's like, you've got your ABN, you've got your address. There's like what the work is, as what the price is. If you go down a little bit, you'll see there's, payment terms or payment methods, a total, some contact details. And this is one thing that we do in the graduate diploma where, an invoice is an essential record keeping kind of process for doing business, because what will happen is in 5 or 10 years, 5 or 7 years maybe, the tax office may do a thing called an audit, and they may come to you. If you've got an ABN or a business of your own, they may come to you and you say, what's all the money that you've ever made in your business? And we need to check that against your tax records. And they'll expect you to have a pile of invoices with an invoice number for each one that very clearly says what you've charged people. And when people are starting business, they go, I don't know what an invoice is. What is it? A lot of my students actually do it for when they're going to purchase something. And you go, no, the flow of money is in a different direction. So people are learning about what an invoice is and what this kind of documentation is about. The other thing that I would say to folks about getting an ABN and doing contract work of any size, apart from what we've all talked about, briefs and contracts and IP and all that, is to be aware that if people may ask you for an ABN so that they can pay you. If that happens, you are not classified as an employee and they will not pay tax on your behalf. So it's super, super important to say that invoice that Aiden sent out, if he were a sole trader, which he's not, but if he just had an ABN for himself and he sent that invoice out and he was paid $1,000, what he should do is take 30% of that money and put it straight in a bank account for his tax bill at the end of the year, because you'll have $1,000 that you made. You need to tell the tax office that you've got that as income, and then they'll say, "Where's our $300?" Because you have to pay your tax. So what people can do if they don't know much about this, particularly if they strike it rich and they get a big contract or they get a number of big contracts, is they'll be making money and they'll be going, "This is great. You know, I'm paying rent, I'm going out for dinner and all that sort of thing, and like living," which is what you should do with money. But then they get to the end of the year and the tax office says, "Oh, okay, you've made all this money. We need $30,000 of tax from you." And you go, how much? And if you don't have that set aside, then you find yourself in real trouble. Now, the tax office is nice. They'll let you pay it off in installments, but it can really set your business back quite a lot. So considering your tax obligations is really super important. And being aware of the difference between, being a contractor, being a sole trader, and then being an employee is quite important as well.
I think a big part of that comes down to budgeting and your finances, which there is a section in the GDML course that talks about budgeting and finances and putting all of that stuff together as well. As a business, because we're a proprietary limited company, there are still definitely tax obligations for sure.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't have to put money away. It's just that we have to think about it a little bit more than the 30%. There's a hell of a lot more information that goes in the back there, which is why we have a tax accountant and they handle all of that process for us. But that's definitely something to consider, especially when you start to build some volume. So we're at a point now where we work with 4 different libraries. We do some work for hire stuff on the side, and we're working with some non-for-profits and those sorts of things as well. So the amount of invoices that are coming through are at a point where I can't just manage it by myself on top of everything else that's going on. So now we're at a point where we're like, okay, now let's look into software solutions. So Xero or MyOb or some kind of accounting software that helps us handle that process. And a lot of those softwares are really good for tracking expenses and payroll and all that sort of stuff too. So and then you can send that file through to an accountant and they can handle everything for you. So that's the dream.
So your money is what it's about eventually, ultimately, I guess. And so money talk is a big thing that we begin to do in the graduate diploma. And a lot of people are like, I can barely manage my own finances, or I don't have any finances. Like, how do we begin to talk and think about money a little bit? And this is like super, super important for business, as Aiden says, particularly when you start getting towards volume, but is also important if you want money. So Irini has done some work in like finance and budgeting and planning as an assignment here. So we'll get Matt to bring up Irini's budget document. I think, yep, that's it. So Irini, can you talk us through your learning about finance and budgeting and things like that?
Well, I've had a little bit of an introduction to this before the GDML course through the emerging grant application, but it was quite difficult to work with the templates ScreenOz provided to do the budgeting and allocation of the wages for each individual person in the team with what the grant was giving us. So I would say our second go at doing budget through this project here was, I think, much more smooth sailing, and it gave us a lot of reassurance and confidence in, I guess, just the project in general, because now we finally know how much we're asking for a specific period of time or for a specific stage of development. And it was also a really good project for us to identify if, I guess, how much in kind that we can do in terms of the project, because you'll notice with a lot of grant applications, especially Vic Screen, they ask for a minimum of 50% in kind. Now, if you don't know what in kind means, it basically means that for as much money as Vic Screen is investing in your project through the government money, they want you to invest 50% of that through other means, whether it be your own savings through unpaid labor on the project, or through other grants that you might have, or publishers, stakeholders, investors. What else? There are so many other options. I mean, incubator could technically count as an in-kind contribution to a grant as well. So it's really important for you to identify and show proof that you've considered what your in-kind commitment to the business is as well, because Vic Screen takes that into account. They want to know that you're taking it seriously as much as they're taking it seriously, because it's a risk on their behalf as well to invest money into your production. And this is a really good template and project to kind of outline that and determine, out of your wage, how much do you want that to be in-kind contribution. So basically you work unpaid for a shift or two over the course of the production development timeline. And it's really important. So this is a very good project. Basically, upon graduating, we have a really good structure and template to work off of for the actual grant applications, which will streamline the process of doing the applications, and it will just make everything way easier.
Yeah, it's great. I find that this part of it is really, really useful, because we begin to talk about a little thing called sweat equity, which is like basically doing work towards building your business but not getting paid for it yet. And so sweat equity is that kind of in-kind labor that we're talking about there. So that's fantastic. We are nearly done for time. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we go, I do have a couple of questions that are more concrete about the course. So just to confirm for everybody, or just a repeat, what we're talking about is the Graduate Diploma of Management Learning, or the Games Business Program at AIE. And some questions from Attila. How long is the course? It's a year. So it's a year long. You start at the end of January and you go till about the end of November. Course expenses, it's the same cost as a diploma or an advanced diploma. You can see that on our website. It's around 18,000 for the year, but you can get a vet help loan, so that's a deferred payment. You don't have to pay anything up front. What does the course cover? We've covered some of those things today. There's more detail on our website, but it's things like financial planning, business planning. You write a business plan, dealing with complex challenges. We haven't even started that, but I haven't even started talking about that. But that mindset shift of beginning to talk about money and becoming a studio, there's some of the things that we cover. We do a research project. Someone said here, someone asked, what about AI in games? Do you cover something like the management? This is Traveen. Do you cover something like the management of promoting games and developers in video creation sites or streaming platforms such as YouTube or Twitch? Now, this is quite focused, and I have to say that our course doesn't actually cover that specifically, but there's a lot of flexibility in the game business program. So we have a research project, and then we have a learning organizations project and a complex problems project, which allows you to identify your own learning. So if, for example, you are interested in managing, promoting games and developers in video creation sites, you do a project on that. You decide your own project and you go and do research and you learn about that. And then maybe later you teach other people about that. So there's some of the things that are covered there.
You also have the mentors. You, Harry, you guys have experience in the industry in your own projects as well. You guys offer your own experiences when it comes to marketing or packs, especially. You guys have your own experiences that you can offer as mentors for those certain topics that may not be necessarily covered in the course. Sorry to butt in.
No.
I will also just say, in general, if you're someone that wants to make your own game and get funding on that game, this course offers a structure where you make business materials that are really good supporting materials for a grant application. The essential criteria for a grant application is really good. That's the, I guess, bare minimum to get reviewed. The supporting materials, however, is where you can really shine, and that's where you can stand out in comparison to other grant applications. So having a tailored business document in your supporting materials, a profit and loss statement, if you have already been a running studio, is really good. You can even have other things like an accessibility considerations document. You can have a marketing plan document. These are all things that they don't necessarily ask for, but can really benefit de-risking your application and putting trust in you guys as developers.
So it's a big piece of risk management and doing the best you can, having a strong foundation. Finally, a couple of quick questions here. Is the course full-time? Yes, in theory. The way the course works is that you study 3 days a week and then you work on your project 2 days a week. So it does require quite a bit of commitment. Having said that, we realize that people have lives, and sometimes people are working, or sometimes people are doing other things as well. So there's probably a bit more flexibility around commitment. As long as you're delivering your assignments and building your business, we try to make things flexible as if it were a workplace. If you're doing the right thing by us, then we have some flexibility on that side. And then finally, in person, virtual, hybrid, yes. all three. We do have AIE has an online campus, so we have a number of students who are doing the course online, and then we have in-person classes as well in Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney. So that's fantastic. There are more questions here. What I'm going to do is, if you have more questions, put them in the chat on YouTube, and I'll answer them there. The other questions that we've had submitted as part of the registration process, I'll go into YouTube and I'll answer them there, so that there's a record. And if you have put a question in there, I haven't forgotten you. I do love you. I appreciate your question. But we'll just do it post the talk, because we're just about done for the live stream. I'd like to say thank you very much, Aiden and Irini. Really appreciate your time today and your insights on games business. And thanks for saying such lovely things about the games business program. I like that. Any final comments from either of you?
Oh, I mean, I think you should do the course, whoever you are. I think it's a great course. Yeah, I as somebody who has run a business before, and as someone who has been really interested in doing a creative studio business, everything that we learned through that year was completely invaluable. Yes, there were some things that I was like, oh, I know how to write an invoice. That's not but it did force me to actually create an invoice template for the business, which meant I had that as a document moving forward, and I use that in every single invoicing that we do. We use the same invoice because we spent the time to put together something really nice. So it's definitely one of those things where it's deliberate thought into some of those administration processes that you might not think about. So yeah.
Thanks.
Every
Irini.
document we've made as part of the project has been something we've immediately actioned into the studio and in our development. Like when we have our weekly stand-up, we will show the team, we made this document that covers XYZ. We are going to try implementing this into our actual structure and development, and it's helped us improve a lot as a studio. I will say, I think the on-campus experience for the studio has been very, very valuable, because we not only get to simulate a studio experience by just having the workspace to use, but you also have access to mentors a lot more easily. And thanks to having the actual campus resources and the just office space to be able to record in, we have our devlog series, which would not exist in the way that it does if we didn't have the office space. I don't even know if we would have considered doing the devlog if we went with the grant funding and we're just working entirely remotely. But thanks to doing this course, we have office space, we can simulate and actually structure a very streamlined game development that has made us more productive. But we also have a devlog series. And
Fantastic.
we're going to be at
PAX. And I'll be, you're going to be at PAX. Catalyst is going to be at PAX. Go and play their game. And I'm always telling people things like, do devlogs, create a press kit, where's your trailer? So I hassle people about important things like that as well. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, Irini. And thanks everybody for watching and for all your questions. I will follow up with them in the YouTube chat. So I should also say thank you to Matt, who has been a faceless helper and has run all the tech in the background. So Matt from AIE, really appreciate your work. And thanks everyone for watching. See you later. Bye.
Thanks, guys.